Here's my social media monologue for today, and then we'll go through a few really good things. Big news. I've never joined a political party. Even now I'm not a member of any. Obviously the country's in such a bad way, we have to support something. We can see that Labour are the arm of the form of communism, and the Tories only pretended to be conservative. The trust is gone with the Tories after years of fake leaders and some who didn't even get voted in, like May and Sunak. All the bad legislation that Labour uses was brought in by the Tories, and all the good legislation gets ignored. Processing asylum seekers offshore, for instance. So the Tories are finished. After that, there's 16 right-wing parties, all turning out with their 1 and 2 candidates, all going nowhere. I've tried hard for years to be a conduit to get them to work together, but too much male ego in the way. They just won't work as a collective, except for Dr. Tek Kong, who's from the Alliance of Democracy and Freedom Party. Then in 2024, before a snap election, Nigel Farage returned. It lit a spark in politics, and in just a few short weeks created enough support to gain 4 million votes and gain 5 parliamentary seats. Considering the well-established Lib Dems only got 3 million votes and got 72 seats, you can see we're in a very unsuitable system. Except for Lee Anderson, I can honestly say the other Reform MPs would not have won without Nigel's return to politics. Nobody knew them, and nobody really cared about reform, and I include myself in that. Because of his return, we now have a serious chance of changing the face of British politics. It's actually quite irrelevant whether you like him or not, even if you prefer someone else. And let's face it, 1 or 2 disgruntled former Reform stars have certainly done everything they can to put you off him and the party, despite only having an avenue for chatter about politics on offer, albeit for a fee. Neither is in a position to change anything, no matter how much money they expect to get from you. We actually need to win. I've committed so many hours to this, to the fight against communism and for this country. I've gained excellent contacts, great insider knowledge, and I'm prepared to put the effort in. I never ask you to follow me, and I never ask for money. I just give an outlet to help people understand politics in an easy fashion. So for me, if there are a few bumps in the road with reform, I'll continue to support them, because the alternative is scarily worse, devastatingly worse. I make allowances for the personal opinions of some party members to be different to mine. I don't agree with Sarah on digital ID. She doesn't see the dangers, but she's been living in a normal life. She's not been deep diving into the issues of the WEF and CBDC as we have. It's not party policy, so it's not worth bothering about. Lee Anderson would bring back hanging. I wouldn't. But again, it's not party policy, so there's no point dwelling on it. The trans issue in women's prisons. The new experienced advisor, a 27-year based prison officer, a warden, retired, she wants a more tailored approach, but the party policy is no men in women's prisons. But at least they're trying to prepare themselves to listen to people with experience to sort the problems out, not just in the prison service, but other aspects like dealing with the race to zero and other issues. Maybe if recent governments hadn't depleted the prison service by 41%, things in general would have been better. They took 41% of prison officers away from the service because they don't listen to the experts that are working in the service. They just look at a budget sheet and slice and chop and cut. For balance on what goes on in politics and the fact that I think we're at least Reform are prepared to prioritise, David Lammy spent £700 on tea and biscuits for a 2-hour visit to number 10. There's one thing we know for sure. This government and previous governments have never prioritised us. They treat us like livestock on a tax farm. The great thing is the enormous effort and effect that the new reform councils have had. Now this is an area we should be taking more notice of. Reform control councils already saving millions, stopping solar farms and encouraging farming and no vanity projects. I'm absolutely thrilled and astonished at the difference that they are making at the grassroots, with their approach to a sensible line with politics at the council level. I see change and I see hope, and I see a government very afraid of this movement, and I'll continue my wholehearted support. I'm just telling you what I think. You don't have to agree with me, but I am pretty well versed in what's going on, and even though you've got other favourites, they're not in a position to win. We have to win. We can't just get, we've got 20 MPs. No, we have to win. And anything is better than what we've had. Anything. Even if they make cock-ups, it's better than what we've had. And even with the cock-ups, they can't even fail. Because even if they, that's why I've never joined a party. Because I like one thing that they do, and then I think, I don't like that. So a woman said on a thread, and I really liked what she said, because everybody says we shouldn't have to vote for the best of the worst. And this woman said, actually, we should always have to vote for the best of the worst, because no one party is ever going to satisfy all your needs. I thought that was quite sensible, actually. But just to show you what I'm on about the difference that councillors can make, the young 19-year-old that runs Warwick Council has given the police a run for the money by asking them to share the identity and background of sex offenders. The Reform Council leader for Staffordshire, are you ready for this? The party won 49 seats out of 62 back in May. He's reported that the council has just blocked 63 farms from being converted into solar, wind or battery storage sites. 63. Instead, they're reprioritising food production. Now, what you've got to look at when you get away from all these inflated issues, what I call middle-class full belly issues. Trans women in women's jails. Easily problem. There's only 51 of them. Sort a special unit out and get on with it. Get some money spent on that instead of cakes and biscuits. Get some people with some common bloody sense. In reality, this at council level is massive. These are the farms the council owns but lease out to tenant farmers, so they've got control. There's loads of farms like that across the country. They've likened scrapping the rollout of EV chargers in areas with little demand, saving the taxpayer reported £4.5 million. That's just in Staffordshire. Cooper, that's his name, has also received praise back in June for refusing to use council funds to subsidise local pride parades. He said at the time, "We're not against them. We have a great time and we hope everyone enjoys themselves. However, we are not going to spend taxpayers' money funding it." Some former councillors had partially funded small amounts, to be fair, and pride events to the prior year via their community funds. Also, comically, LGBTQ activists responded by demanding an apology from Cooper. They never got one. So that's just Staffordshire. Nigel Farage posted the other day, Kent Council are currently saving, because of the cutbacks they've done, I think it's £16 million they've saved, which is the equivalent of £2,000 a day interest on the loans that Kent Council had accrued. Lancashire County Council are also saving money in the millions, and they're paying attention to the Highways Department. The Highways Department is like the poison chalice. Nobody wants to handle it because you can never sort it out, because government never sends enough funding. And there's always something wrong after years of neglect. But not in Lancashire. They're out there now clearing gullies that have been blocked for bloody years. So what you've got to remember is, it might not be glamorous, it might not be watching someone on the telly, it might not be national politics, but what's going on in our councils is really important because it's where we live. So I'm taking a bit more notice of what's going on. And what I like about Reform is how they share everything on social media. They're prepared to tell you what's going on and keep you informed. So that's a good thing. And next year, 3,000 seats up for grabs, and I feel pretty confident that Reform will probably take quite a lot. 1,900 are in London. They've just won the first London council seat. Now, that's proper change, that's a vehicle, that's ammunition, that's the artillery. That's the people on the ground, volunteers, thousands of them now. So when people say to you, Nigel Farage is a one-man party, tell me how. Because I see people like Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, they are one-man parties. They have set themselves up as individuals. Nigel Farage has got 30 years experience of having crap thrown at him from every angle, and now even from our own side. The establishment have always dissed him. They've treated him like Tommy Robinson in a suit. They even say it now. And there was even a post the other day going on about him being too right-wing. I mean, I think the man's trying to be quite accommodating. And another point, and I think it's a valid point, and a retired politician said it to me. And he said, June, you've got to remember when you're elected, because he'd been an MP, he said, you've got to take consideration for those who didn't vote for you, just as much as the ones who did, who put you there. I think that's a fair point, don't you? I think you've got to, you can't just say, right, well, we're in now, stuff you. But what I'm really saying is America's taking notice of what's going on in Great Britain. A friend of mine who works in the White House has said, because they asked me to explain what our councils are like, because theirs is different, they have a different system. So I had to explain what our councils were like, which is a bit like where the sheriffs are, they have like the county line, which is a bit different to us. But when they understood, they said, well, that's a real movement. That really is changing. I said, it is actually. I said, it's not glamorous, so, it doesn't get talked about much, but actually, this is the first time I've seen council stuff talked about on the telly. Now, there's rumours going around that Reform have dumped Ant Middleton as the candidate for the London mayoral and taken on Lila Cunningham. People describe her as a Muslim. Now, all I see when I see Lila Cunningham is a woman as mad and as angry as I am with the state of the country. More so because she hates Sadiq Khan and thinks he's ruined London. She's never worn a hijab. She's not that kind of, you can't, they're not all bloody terrorists. They're not all extremists. Get a grip. And nobody's put anybody forward for the London mayoral. It's years away. You wouldn't choose your candidate now because you don't know what's going to happen. Somebody could get run over by a truck. And Ant, great, I think he's fantastic. But he's got a few issues. He's got an outstanding huge tax bill. And he's got the issue of where he hit the coppers. He did apologise and showed remorse, but one of them was a woman. Now, that's not a good look if you're going to have somebody in charge of the Met, which effectively the London Mayor is. But he's not even a candidate. Ant's been putting posts out from himself. He's pushing himself forward as a candidate. Rumours he's gone to join Advance UK. I don't know if that's true. There isn't anything there at Advance UK yet. It's not even a proper party. People think they're joining. They're not. Just like before. It's a limited company, and at this moment in time, your money is a donation. Just like it was with Reform. Nothing's set up properly yet. So I feel that's unfair because after all the months of dissing Reform Party for, the way it was set up as a limited company and Nigel Farage, he's gone and done exactly the same thing. Oh, but we've got to believe that Ben's not going to be like that. Well, if you had a crowd that could vote Nigel Farage out and they'd done it already, where would all these councillors be? They wouldn't be in office. They wouldn't be saving millions of pounds across the country. People need to wake up and understand that the layman, in this instance, while a party's getting going, your thought process, my thought process, is not that important. Let's just get something near the bloody finish line. Let's get something to get the ones we don't want out. Your first job is to get them out. You can't restructure if you're still dealing with the enemy. And trust me, these people are the enemy. They are the enemy. And we need a win. That's what we need. That's why I still support them. But the great thing is America's noticing us. America's noticing that we're trying to push back as a people. And we are moving forward at such a pace. Starmer can't keep up. Why is he not worried about Ed Davey or whoever's in charge of the Greens? Why is he not talking about them? Why does he talk about Nigel Farage? Because that's the threat. That's the one that can threaten him. So I'm very, very interested in supporting that. Absolutely. And I'm not bothered what these Twitter accounts come up with, cropping little videos to make it sound worse than it is, misquoting Nigel Farage. 17 yesterday I found, 17 attempts to misquote him, saying that he wanted Shamama Begum back in the country. No, he didn't. No, he did not. I watched the interview and I grokked it. I thought, right, I'll get AI's take on it, because AI's not a reform supporter, are they? So I grokked it. Grok is the AI thing that they use on Twitter. So I asked if Nigel Farage supported Shamama Begum, can never remember her bloody name, that odd bod jihadi bird, coming back to Britain. Grok AI said, there's an ambivalence about Begum's return, he stated. It's very difficult for us to think we should take people like Shamima and others back, he added. Instinctively, it's not something I want to do. This suggests reluctance. The coverage stating I have never wanted to allow Shamama Begum back into Britain, as I literally say in this interview, the clarification emphasises his opposition to her return. And it just goes on explaining that he doesn't want it. And it was a conversation with Sebastian Gorka, who's an American politician. He's in one of my WhatsApp groups. And he'd opened something up, and Nigel Farage, quite rightly, worked out what were going on and said, he's probably opened up a conversation the government don't want to have because he brought something up. That's all it was. But they pounce on him. And people say, oh, you're still defending him. Yeah, because I started off 10 years ago opening up foul play by the mainstream media, not telling us the truth about Brexit, telling us that Nissan were going to shut down when they weren't, they were taking on apprentices, telling us that we weren't going to get food and medical supplies across the channel if we voted Brexit. So I rang P&O up and they said everything was in order. Not only that, the army had been stockpiling stuff for months. They had warehouses all over the country full of food and medical supplies, insulin, stuff we need every day. And guess what? That's why we coped in Brexit when the bloody nutcases shut us down. Because we had all the supplies, not Brexit, lockdown. We had all the supplies from that era. There's nothing to worry about. Right, I'm going to have to go now because my husband's coming back in with me shopping and he'll have some frozen food. But trust me, I wouldn't lead you down the garden path, and I do not take any notice of clickbait on Twitter. There's a lot of people making a lot of this out of being ridiculous and sensationalising everything that they come across. So it's up to you how you process information that I give you, but I'm only trying to be straight with you. I'm not actually trying to, I'll lead them away and get them to support reform. I don't care. I'm supporting them. I want you to understand why. And if you see the logic, you'll probably do the same. And again, the most important things, what are they? Look after yourself, look after your family, talk to other people.